Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tanks in World War One. The first tank ever created, and the tank we will be talking about today, was the British Mark I. The Mark I had many features to it that are not found today, the first of which is the back wheel. The back wheel was added to provide mobility, because even though the tank travelled at a measly 4 miles per hour, it had no ways of turning left or right. Another feature is the treads. The treads are still found in tanks today. They're capable of climbing up to 5 feet of mounds and were very useful in attacking enemy trenches. They were made because tanks were made to attack on all terrains and had to be able to maneuver wherever they wanted to. This is original World War I tank footage. You can see how it climbs over bombs that is nothing there, and how it uses the wheel to turn. Some other features from tanks was the armor. The armor was capable of stopping any bullets, but unfortunately it was weak to all sorts of explosives and shrapnel and any sort of anti-tank weaponry. Another feature is the 6-pounder cannons. These 6-pounder cannons made it a mail tank, which we will explain later. 6-pounder cannons were able to blast through any other tanks and through enemy defenses. Also, the inside engineering in tanks were very prone to technical fault, as you can see in some pictures from it. This is a 6-pounder cannon, and as you can see in this picture, this poor bloke has been stranded in the middle of nowhere because his tanks failed.
There are two kinds of tanks, male and female, and I'll be explaining. So male tanks had two different kinds of weapons. The quarter pounders, and the male had two of them, and then the classical sort of gun, I guess you would expect to find in a tank, nowadays at least, but the rotating turrets and sort, and it had three. The male tanks were heavy, slow, and the original male tank prototype was called the Mother, but the male tanks were going to have even more weapons, but then they had to change it, which is why female tanks were created. These just had 5 machine guns and were slightly quicker and were better suited to taking down lots of infantry. Female tanks may have been slightly quicker, and after developments after World War I, male and female tanks ceased to exist because they could have both tanks both male and female at the same time. So having 5 of the machine guns on the female as well as the 2 quarter pounders on a male.
Only 40 tanks were shipped to the Somme, but only 32 were able to carry out the first attack. Only 9 made it across no man's land, and only 3 made it back to the British lines. The French criticised the tanks as they felt that the British had sacrificed the secrecy of them by deploying too little to be effective, but General Douglas Haig saw the promise of them and ordered hundreds more to be made. The British Mark I tank played a large part in the attack of the Anglo-French forces who attacked on the Western Front, whereas the Russians attacked from the east. It was an attempt to advance on the right and then pivot on the left. It was unsuccessful, but 2,500 yards were gained. The week before the battle, 250,000 Allied shells were fired into no man's land to the German trenches. 100,000 British soldiers also poured into the line of fire, getting massacred, with 20,000 dead and 40,000 wounded. To add salt to the wound, the German machine guns survived the British artillery.